On December 8, 1987, an Israeli truck accidentally hit a car carrying 4 Palestinian laborers.
All
the people in the car were killed. We thought this was no accident. It was done on purpose by the Israelis.
Angry crowds soon gathered. An 18-year-old Palestinian threw a stone at some Israeli soldiers. When they fired back, the boy was killed. The Israeli security forces then stepped up their presence in the occupied territories. A group of young activists seized the opportunity to prepare a leaflet calling for an uprising.
Early in the morning, our leaflet was ready. We had cars standing by. We asked children and pregnant women to help. They could slip past the Israelis at the checkpoint.
Palestinian workers were urged to go on strike. Shopkeepers were told to shut their businesses. The Intifada had begun. Yasser Arafat and the PLO leadership, still in exile in Tunis, learned about the Intifada from a newscast.
It is the resistance and the revolution of all our children, or our women, or our people, or our men. This is the accumulation of the revolution.
In fact, we didn't know who issued the leaflets. We were worried. We wanted to know who was behind all this.
From the other end of the Mediterranean, the PLO could provide little day-to-day guidance to the Intifada organizers. The demonstrations, which began in Gaza, now spread to East Jerusalem and the West Bank. The Palestinian flag, an illegal symbol under Israeli rule, began to appear all over the occupied territories.
Now even the bourgeoisie, everyone joined the Intifada. This really encouraged us.
To keep the Intifada going, one young activist sought guidance from Faisal Husseini, the head of one of the oldest Palestinian families. Husseini had spent the last few years in and out of Israeli jails for his political activities.
I told him the Intifada must not change tactics. Don't use weapons or guns. Don't give the Israelis an excuse to use their technology. We want to tie down as many soldiers as we can.
The strategy of minimum force caught the Israelis off guard.
We are facing now a new form of warfare against us. It means the attempt to destroy our existence by violent demonstrations.
The Israelis tried to break the morale of the protesters with mass arrests. They blew up the homes of convicted terrorists.
It is not a nice picture to witness blowing a house. I forced myself to be with the soldiers, understanding that they feel as I feel.
When the Israeli cabinet met, members of the coalition argued about how best to end the Intifada.
אריק שרון ביקש את רשות הדיבור
Ariel Sharon spoke up. In essence, he said, "Mr. Prime Minister, we must order the army to suppress the Intifada. The army will find a way." Some of the ministers made horrifying suggestions. They suggested, send in the tanks, kill 1,000 and it will collapse. Order will be restored to Israel. We knew if we killed 1,000 it would get worse, and we would be branded war criminals.
The cabinet rejected all of this, but told the defense minister, Yitzhak Rabin, to find a way to end the Intifada.
Rabin stood in front of the soldiers and said, "Gentlemen, don't just stand there. Use your hands, use your clubs, beat the demonstrators, restore order."
Trying to restore order without shooting the demonstrators, Rabin told his soldiers to club them instead. Scenes like this were broadcast around the world.
They are facing the punishment of the Israelis by their hands, by their stones, not more. Till now, in all over the occupied territories, in every town and village or refugee camp, in all the demonstrations, no one had used a gun or a hand grenade.
Abu Jihad, the PLO's military leader in Tunis, had gained control of the Intifada. He also directed the PLO's terrorist operations. In the middle of the Intifada, Abu Jihad ordered an attack on an Israeli bus carrying people home from work. 3 were killed and 6 wounded.
All were in a state of shock. Those women who had been on the bus and had got away had not escaped the emotional trauma.
A month later, an elite Israeli commando unit landed on a beach in Tunis. Mossad agents guided the commandos to the home of Abu Jihad.
I was woken by the sound of people breaking into the house. Then I heard screams. I was terrified. I heard Abu Jihad moving, running from the desk to the cupboard, where he took his pistol. I saw 3 masked men with machine guns. One of the men opened fire on Abu Jihad. They shot him in his arm and his heart.
Abu Jihad was a leader of the Intifada. Although he was out of the country, he was fighting against us. He was one of their most popular commanders. He fell, just like many others, like people on our side.
But in the intensity of the conflict, both sides were learning something about each other.
For the 40th anniversary of Israel, we had a huge military parade. A few days later, I was in the West Bank. I came across a group of young Palestinians. They knew me from TV. And one of them said, "Yesterday I saw all your fighter aircraft. You're so strong up there. But what can you do against stone throwers down here?" This was our problem. and the young people's power.
You know that if you beat them and shoot them and do whatever you want to them, they won't stop. We train to fight against the other soldiers, and now we fight against the people. It's difficult.
Increasingly, Israelis asked themselves whether they could rule more than 1 million Palestinians in the occupied territories forever.